Welcome to the Gone Fission Podcast, your one-stop source for news about the emerging nuclear renaissance and environmental cleanup of Department of Energy sites across the nation. Now, here's your host, Michael Butler.
Hello, welcome to the Gone Fission Podcast. Today is Monday, September 22nd, 2025. Today, as part of our expanded focus on the nuclear renaissance, we're going to look at a major electric utility that is pushing ahead with plans to construct a small modular reactor. In May, the Tennessee Valley Authority became the first American utility to submit a small modular reactor construction permit application to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. TVA is planning to build this first in the U.S. reactor at its Clinch River site in Tennessee. If built, the reactor would be operational by the early 2030s, subject to regulatory approval. TVA is also seeking Department of Energy grant funding to support this first-of-a-kind project, which is seen as a model for future SMR deployments. The grant would provide first-mover funding to support deployment of SMRs and would accelerate construction at Clinch River. TVA's board has not yet voted to approve an SMR at Clinch River, although in August it approved $150 million in additional advanced funding to support the project. This brings its total commitment to $350 million. TVA's SMR site was once the proposed location of the Clinch River Breeder Reactor project. That project aimed to build the first large-scale demonstration liquid metal fast breeder reactor in the U.S. The Clinch River project was controversial from the start, and economic and political considerations eventually led to its demise. Right now, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. As a subscriber, you'll receive notification of new episodes, and you'll support continued production of the podcast going forward. It's free. Just hit the subscribe button. And if you have a comment or would like to reach out to me, you can contact me at mbutler@gonefissionpodcast.com. I look forward to hearing from you. Now let's learn more about the Tennessee Valley Authority's plans to build a small modular reactor in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Here's our interview with TVA Vice President Greg Boerschig. Well, we're talking now with Greg Boerschig. Greg is the Vice President of TVA's Clinch River project in Oak Ridge, Roane County, Tennessee. Greg, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. Good to be here.
We're very glad to have you and looking forward to talking to you about what's going on with TVA in the nuclear arena today. Let's start first by talking about this workshop. We're at the Nuclear Opportunities Workshop in Knoxville. There are over 1,000 attendees at this meeting, a two-day meeting. It's just down the street from the TVA headquarters here. What does the level of interest in a meeting like this say to you about what's happening in the nuclear energy business today?
Yeah, I think, well, it says a lot, and the interest is really great. The other thing is, if you look at this conference over the years, as they talked about this morning, it started out at between 60 and 80 people, and now you're over 1,000. And I think when I started going to them, it was around 400, so that was maybe 3 years ago. Last year we had 800, and this year over 1,000. Mm-hmm. It's really amazing. The other thing is I think almost 200 are students, which is really, really great. Mm-hmm. So there's a groundswell of interest, not only from other professionals in the industry, people that are interested in what's happening around them, and now students want to get into the industry, which is just outstanding. It really is a statement on where the industry sits right now.
Well, absolutely. And I think even the organizers were surprised at the topping that 1,000 mark this year. They moved from a hotel in the area to the convention center, thinking there'd be, more than enough room for everybody, and they sold it out. So I think it does say a lot.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your project. You're planning to build a small modular reactor on the Clinch River site.
Yes.
And for people who are familiar with the kind of recent history of nuclear power. They know Clinch River as the site of the proposed breeder reactor in the 1970s and 80s. And we also know that means that site has been studied very extensively, that it was really approved for construction of a breeder in the 70s. And that probably along with Yucca Mountain, it's probably one of the most studied nuclear sites in the country. And it's very well understood. So this helps you, I think, when you got your NRC early site permit, because it had already been scrutinized so closely. How helpful would you say it's been to have a site like Clinch River?
I think it's been very helpful. As you said, it's been very tightly characterized over the years in terms of the meteorological data, the surface and subsurface data, which is very important to siting a nuclear plant. Having Oak Ridge facilities next door, there's a lot of data we were able to capture from there. Watts Bar just down the river, a lot of data available there. So this area is very well understood. I think probably the biggest thing, though, is related to your first question, and that is the level of interest and the acceptance of nuclear here in the Oak Ridge area. I think that's, if you look at where nuclear plants got into challenges in the 80s, post 3 Mile Island accident, it really was in the area of the public not understanding and the public not accepting. In this area, this community, you couldn't find a more educated community and a community that is open to nuclear. They're very educated, so they ask great questions. They will ask the right questions in terms of what's going in their backyard, but they really, we couldn't have asked for a better community. So.
Well, so the site has worked out well, or is working out well, in terms of your plans for the SMR. Let's talk about the reactor itself. My notes here show it as a BWRX 300 technology. Without getting too technical, can you tell us a little bit about the technology and who's developing it, and
Sure.
kind of give us a little bit of background on that?
Sure. Well, this is General Electric is the developer, and it's a boiling water reactor. That's of the current technologies in use. You either have a pressurized water reactor or a boiling water reactor. Quite simply put, it's a lot like a tea kettle sitting on the stove. The water is boiled inside it, and then the steam that comes off the reactor is used to turn a turbine to make electricity. Where in the pressurized water reactor, there's a separate loop that would separate the steam going through the reactor, the water going through the reactor, and the steam going through a turbine. So that's a basic understanding. But the X in BWRX 300 is the 10th generation. So there are over 6 decades of boiling water experience that went into the design of this reactor for GE. And in fact, they've used concepts from designs going all the way back to the beginning. So it's a very well understood design. It's a small modular reactor. So small modular reactors are typically between 50 and 300 megawatts. This one sits at 300, around 300 megawatts nominally.
And that's compared to 11 or 1200 for the traditional light water reactor.
That's correct.
So it's about a fourth of the size of the
That's correct.
reactors that we're used to, I guess.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And it is a Generation 3 plus reactor. So what that means is that the plus means that it's passive design in terms of its cooling. So if in terms of safety systems, basically the reactor takes care of itself. The operator doesn't have to take any actions. It doesn't require any electrical power. So if there's valves, they fail to their required positions. No pumps are needed. So you don't have any backup diesel generators or anything like that. It's a very safe and simple design.
In general, small modular reactors are said to be safer, more efficient, easier to replicate, have a smaller footprint. There's a lot of advantages with a reactor that size, right?
That's correct. And really the easier to replicate is the modular portion. So when you get into building many of these, it is designed such that many of the components, many of the spaces and areas could be built in a factory and then shipped to various locations around the country, and that brings down the cost for this reactor.
Let's talk about the money side just a little bit. I know that the TVA board has approved $350 million for the nuclear program, I guess, which includes the work that you're going to do at Clinch River. Is that right?
Yeah, the $350 million is really the upfront evaluation for various technologies. So our advanced nuclear program, there's two groups associated with it. We have the new nuclear program, which is responsible for charting the future of TVA's advanced nuclear ambitions. So it evaluates all the various technologies that are in development right now, and then gives us insight in what is the best technology to pursue, what has the most promise to be able to be deployed. They also do siting analysis so that if the financing is available and the need arises, there's a place to put these reactors. The other group in our advanced nuclear effort is the Clinch River project. And our job is to ensure that that first reactor that gets built is built with high quality, on schedule, and on budget.
Okay.
So if I could, but the actual cost of the reactor would be separate. So the 350 just gets us to understand the direction we're going.
Right. Okay. Now, there's also a Department of Energy component here. There's a grant application that TVA is kind of leading a coalition of folks to apply for. It's an $800 million grant. What is that for? How does that work?
Sure. So that grant was specific to Generation 3 plus reactors. So there's Generation 4, Generation 3 plus are really the two categories of the advanced reactors. A 3 plus reactor uses light water as its cooling medium, which is pretty much the same as what's out there right now. Generation 4, we use some other medium. So it'll use liquid metal like sodium. It'll use gas like helium or molten salt. So differences in technology. So this grant focused on the Gen 3 plus because there are fewer first of a kind features, and in general, although the Gen 4s are closing the gap, it's believed that the Gen 3s are closer to deployment. So it's $800 million, and a number of applicants applied, and the money can be given to one candidate. It could be shared amongst two or three, or more. And we're waiting to find out. The goal of this grant is to stimulate not only that first reactor, to accelerate the first reactor to be built, but also to stimulate the industry. So if you look at TVA's application, partnering with us or collaborating with us, we have forging companies, so large forgings, which aren't currently made here in the United States. Reactor vessel manufacturing organization is part of that. That's currently not done in the United States. Plenty of those two activities are done for the United States Navy, but this would allow those organizations, part of the grant would go towards helping them expand into commercial nuclear power. Also, our constructor, the architect engineer, the developer, all would receive funds from this. In addition, we also have other utilities that will use some of the money for developing their construction permit applications. So we call those fast followers. So they're waiting to see how we do, and then they're standing by ready. So if you look at our grant application, it really is geared at stimulating the industry, bringing not only that first plant to the United States, but to boost the industry here in the United States.
And you don't have any feel, I guess, for when you'll hear whether you were successful or not?
Well, we applied in April, and originally it was first offered in January. We applied in January. The rules changed slightly after an administration change. The focus was slightly different, not much. So we anticipate either late this summer or fall.
Before the end of the year.
Before we hear, yeah.
There's also a smaller DOE grant, around $8 million, which I understand is for help with the expenses of the NRC licensing review. You've also applied for that as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And yeah.
All right. In your public statements, or TVA generally, that I've read, TVA has kind of staked out a position as a leader, or the leader,
Yes.
in small modular reactors. How do you? What makes you the leader? Why would you say you're the leader in reactors?
Well, I think it's interesting. In our industry, there is a long line of people who want to be the second to build a nuclear power plant, and very few are willing to step out and be the first. And there's a good reason for that. If you look at the history of the industry, it's been fraught with over budget, missing schedules, and expenses. Now, you can go back and look at what was going on in the 80s and things like that, and make a lot of excuses for it. But nonetheless, it's a big investment. So, in fact, if you look at the cost of a large reactor, it could really be the last decision that company makes. That's the beauty of a small modular reactor, is you don't have to bet your company to build one. But nonetheless, TVA is visionary to step out and to want to lead the charge. Now, it is consistent with our mission as TVA to bring energy to the people of the valley, economic development, and protect the environment. So it just fits in nicely with us.
Support from the state government and the local community is very important in nuclear projects. And how would you evaluate the support that you have from the state of Tennessee and from the local community for this SMR project?
Yeah, I don't think we could. We're truly blessed to have the support that we have in terms of state government. Governor Lee has been just outstanding. He developed that advisory council to help capitalize, because really, if you look at particularly in East Tennessee, nuclear is part of our history. It's part of our fabric here in East Tennessee, and really leveraging that competitive advantage to really help not only stimulate the industry, but bring more business to the people of the valley. It really is a remarkable effort, and it looks at not only bringing in businesses and advanced technology, but also training the people here to be able to support those endeavors. So I think that's really great. Congressman Fleischman, you couldn't ask for a stronger advocate for nuclear power and for East Tennessee. He works tirelessly to support his constituency. And again, he knows that nuclear is safe. His experience being in this area, and it's a source of great jobs for the people here. So he's done tremendous work. And then locally, as I mentioned before, the people of this area are very knowledgeable and very committed to nuclear generation. So we couldn't ask for a better situation.
Well, let's talk about data centers for a minute. That's become the hot button word in economic development all across the country, as the data centers are growing in number, and of course they require large amounts of power. How does TVA view data centers and your involvement with them and ability to supply power for data centers?
Data centers, it's actually more complex than just another company. Certainly, they're very useful in terms of expanding communication, expanding use of the internet as a marketplace, and just tremendous growth for society. But when you look at some of these data centers today, particularly when you start getting into the use of AI, they're gigawatt scale plants. And you had mentioned earlier a typical commercial reactor today is 1,200 megawatts electric. So you're looking at one reactor for one customer. And oh, by the way, that customer employs 30 people.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you look at siting of a nuclear reactor, you can't put them anywhere. So sites are very finite. So for a decision, a utility to make a decision to support that, it's a big decision. Now, like I said, it's great for commerce nationwide, but locally, there's so many factors that goes into it. I do think it's great though that there is support. I mean, it's a complex decision. I think where small modular reactors play a role in that, though, is these facilities they demand high reliability, and you could have high reliability. It was talked about today that nuclear power is the most reliable form of power generation out there, in excess of 94% capacity factor. But if you were to lose a unit through weather or whatever, where the unit would go down, a gigawatt plant, that power goes away.
Mm-hmm.
The beauty of small modular reactors is you can make up that power much easier. So if I have multiple 300 megawatt or 150 megawatt reactors supporting those data centers, if one trips for one reason or another, finding that extra power is much easier. Or I can build more plants to have that extra capacity available right thereby. So you begin to see, as you think about it a little bit, there's a strategy to what customers the utilities pursue, and then also what is the best way to provide power to those data centers. And it is I don't want to downplay the importance of data centers. This is a very important part of American commerce. But because of their strong energy demand, it's very complex.
A lot of the tech companies have gotten interested in looking at nuclear as a source of power for their data centers, and even to the extent of co-locating an SMR with the data center. Is that something that TVA has looked at or interested in?
TVA is really open to any situation. I mean, we've looked at a number of different things, but as I mentioned, it really has to be balanced with meeting the total needs of the Tennessee Valley. If you look at the demand curves, there are several scenarios, but all of them has demand going up.
Mm-hmm.
And meeting the demand for our customer base is the most important thing. And then how we fit data centers into that equation. We are looking at it, but there's a number of different scenarios that could play out in terms of how that happens.
Let's talk about the schedule for a minute on your Clinch River project. I know you're going to. Well, from what I read anyway, I know schedules change, but you're supposed to start site work on this project next year. Is that right?
Some site work, depending on the grant money application. Yep.
Okay. And then how does the schedule play out after that?
Well, I don't think we have advertised it in our grant application. We did put a rough schedule in there. So we would, the NRC with respect to our construction permit application, which is necessary before we could do nuclear construction, that was a 17-month review period. And then that gets us a safety analysis. Then there'd be a couple months for hearings. So a little bit under 20 months total. Then we could begin nuclear construction. That puts you out into the 28 range. And then the plant construction, you're looking early 2030s.
Okay.
For completion.
Okay. So another 7 or 8 years, maybe. So we might be seeing an SMR operating on the Clinch River site.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, that would be nice. Although I have to state the board has not approved, that yet. So really would come down to financing, and then having the design and the planning sufficiently progressed for the board to review and approve going forward.
Well, finally, let me ask you this one last question. About 40% of TVA's baseload power today is nuclear. And you have one of the biggest commitments to nuclear from that standpoint of any utility in the country. But what do you see for nuclear in the future in terms of growth for SMRs and for the program in general over the next decade or two? Do you see nuclear coming back and being a strong source of supply?
I do. I do think that there is the door is open, the window is open for opportunity, and it really, there are other options though. There are other options besides nuclear. So really, it's up to the industry to use this opportunity to advance the industry. Otherwise, something else, other forms of energy could step in and be the primary source. So I think there's an opportunity, and it's really up to this industry to make the most of it.
Well, Greg Boerschig, Vice President of TVA's Clinch River Project, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.